It happened. It finally happened. What everybody knew was coming. Do you remember when Embracer Group started buying up a load of subsidiaries and companies? They wanted to become the next Tencent. They are a huge corporation that owns all of these game development studios, yet they had such a big fall through in a deal a few years ago that has caused, well, one of the worst cascades of studios shutting down. And the most recent victim is Insurgency Sandstorm. God damn it. So, what is the newest of news? Well, New World Interactive, who are the main developers of Insurgency Sandstorm, have had layoffs up the wazoo. It has been an insane few weeks for those guys. And all in all, as much as this is a disaster for the game in general and very sad for the community that's been built around it, at the heart of this are real people who have lost their real jobs. So it's not positive for anybody. This isn't the first time that Embracer Group has done this. Since this huge deal fell through some time ago now, they've been laying off everybody, and pretty much every studio underneath them has been hit, whether it's current or future projects. GameIndustry.biz say the human cost of Embracer's debt reduction has been steep. 904 people were laid off between July the 1st and September 30th. With more dismissed since due to redundancies and 3 more of its studios across October and November. Not only that, but there's more to come. Yes, it doesn't look like this is going to be the end of the tyrant of Embracer Group's bad management. But how does this specifically impact Insurgency Sandstorm? Well, as mentioned, New World Interactive there's been rumours that it's completely shut down, yet they came out more recently to say it's not closed, it's just being restructured. I would say restructured with the most sarcastic of words, because it just seemed like another way of saying we're kicking out pretty much everybody and then working out what happened. Saber Interactive, who is a division of the Embracer Group, has confirmed that it's laid off its employees at New World Interactive Studios. That's all a little bit confusing, but the way these huge conglomerates work is they have multiple layers. Embracer is the overall owner. They own hundreds of studios, one of them being Saber Interactive, who are a bigger studio. Yet within them they have little subsidiaries and smaller divisions. That is where New World Interactive sits. They made the Insurgency games. They also made Day of Infamy, the World War II spin-off, and Insurgency Sandstorm, the most recent and, in my opinion, one of the best updates. It has kept its community going. It looks gorgeous, it sounds incredible, and I love how this game has turned out. Yet, unfortunately, updates have been very few and far between, at least in recent years, and I think it's starting to be revealed why that's happened. Word off the layoffs came as a rumour that New World Interactive was being closed outright, yet Saber Interactive then came out to say that it's not being closed, just restructured, with that very corporate buzzword there. This reorganisation has unfortunately resulted in layoffs at the studios. We're working to fill existing open roles with Saber, with individuals affected by these changes wherever feasible, and will be providing large severance packages to these employees. And it's such a shame that this has to happen. Because whilst we can all be sad that our best games or our favourite games are not going to have development on them anymore, it's also just people's lives that are being chucked off because some big head honcho made a shitty deal a few years ago, and now hundreds, if not moving into the thousands very soon, as we saw from that first report, their lives are completely being changed because of a small butterfly effect. But there's also more news. Not only will the layoffs impact Insurgency Sandstorm, their most current game, but there were also multiple new future projects that were in the works. I would hope, at least, we're talking more stuff in the Insurgency world and maybe even another Day of Infamy, because the World War II shooter with Hell Let Loose and Postscriptum coming back is on the return. Day of Infamy could have been a perfect slot in between those two games, just as Insurgency was between Arma and Squad. But hey, I don't know if that's even going to happen anymore. Saber Interactive have been very, very adamant, though, that it is not closing down New World, and that there will be some more development. These unannounced future projects will supposedly continue, yet I am very, very doubtful. This seems like a last grasp at straws to try and get a little bit more hope from their community that they will continue development. But with such huge layoffs, what's even the point? Because Insurgency Sandstorm itself, an already released game, has been struggling to bring out enough content to keep people happy. So the fact that there's still these unannounced projects that will supposedly continue under this very much ripped apart studio seems like just optimism for me rather than actual realistic ideas. This all started at the last minute collapse in 2020 of a $2 billion investment deal from Embracer Group. Yes, that huge sum of money was supposedly going to fund all of these subsidiaries and new studios, and because it didn't go through, that's why we're now seeing the layoffs. This probably would have all been avoided if they didn't buy up hundreds, if not thousands of studios in the first place, but what can you do? So this is scary. We've seen them shutting down a lot of studios and a lot of people are being affected. But it's not just games like Insurgency Sandstorm. They are the most current to the kind of channel that I'm making, but Saber Interactive, who are the guys that own New World Interactive themselves, they own huge franchises. Space Marine 2, which is on its way, Teardown, Mudrunner. These are all things that are being massively infected. World War Z, SnowRunner, and it is terrifying that everything here could be completely demolished because of a huge fall through. But have we heard anything from Insurgency themselves? Anything from the horse's mouth to give us an indication of the future? Well, yes. And with it comes a little bit of hope. Insurgency on Twitter, or X I guess it's called, just today came out with a tweet. Hello soldiers, in light of recent news and a lot of speculation we're seeing from our players, we want to briefly talk about the future of Insurgency Sandstorm. We can confirm that Sandstorm is actively being worked on and supported, and all of the announced Year 3 updates, included fixes and new content, will be released as planned. Okay, that is good news, although supposedly that's already been pretty much finished and is in its final stages anyway, so it's not too surprising. As for the Gen 9 upgrades, they are still coming, though they won't be arriving in December. So that's already our first sign of not only things being pushed back, but the start of what could be an inevitable cycle of content and updates being pushed back over and over again until they're finally scrapped. I'm not saying that will happen, but this just makes it ever more likely. And that's all we have. Very little from the team. And I guess it's because it's still very up in the air for them. Imagine many of your colleagues being laid off and then having to reach out to the community to try and calm the outrage. What more can you do if you don't know all the information yourself? It is a terrifying prospect for the people working in these development teams, and I guess we're just going to have to sit and wait and find out. I really hope they manage to get back on their feet and this game doesn't suffer from the terrible business decisions of some head honcho in $1 billion office, but unfortunately, that's just the way the world works, and we're just going to have to see the fallout from it.